So today's topic is Java interview questions, and when I got this topic from EduBridge, I was a bit perplexed. Why perplexed? Reason being, you can Google it and you can find questions left, right, and center throughout, and you can start skimming it, right? So why are we having this session on Java interview questions? And most of you, those who have joined this session, must have something, that inquisitiveness, to take away from the session, post this session today, right? So uh, this session is all about, it's not about question and answers, right? It is all about how you are approaching a Java interview, and whatever we will be discussing out here, it's gonna help you definitely in your Java interviews. And the question answers, you can say, session is one of the puzzles. You can say one of one of the pieces of that puzzle, and we have various other tasks and other, you can say, elements to that interview that we'll also be discussing, right? Which in technical language at times we call the NFRs, or these are the non-functional requirements, right? So we will be discussing those aspects as well, and I'll be more than happy to take questions. I would like to make this session pretty interactive session, because when you are going in an interview, it's all about your interaction and your presentation. So if you are not speaking out today, then definitely I think one of the feedback to you would be speak out more, discuss more, right? So now let me go to the agenda part of it. Let me just Okay, so the first area that we would be discussing is behind the scene. Uh, it really starts not, see, today if I just start deciding, okay, no, tomorrow let me start giving my interviews, it doesn't work that ways. You need to give a very comprehensive approach when you start for any interview, for that matter, whether it is Java or any language, or for that matter, even any platform in the world. So behind the scene is primarily we'll be discussing about your experience, how you can create a CV out of that experience, about your screening, shortlisting, various things which are related to an interview process, navigating the interview process, where we'll be discussing about, we have the concept of telephonic interviews, we have the written interviews, tests are there, we have face-to-face interviews, and we'll be discussing bit of nuances here and there. And feel free to ask your questions or whatever experience you have gone through, because whatever here I'll be discussing, uh, this is nothing by the books. It is just out of my experience that I'll be sharing with you all what I have seen, being as an interviewee and as an interviewer both, right? And then we'll just jump into the core Java skills that we, as an interviewer, we generally ask, and as an interviewee, what we should be prepared with. We'll be also talking about components and frameworks, because Java, we are just not restricted to core Java. We do work on enterprise edition, which you call J2EE. There are a lot of components, moving components to Java. A lot of libraries are there in Java. We have frameworks such as Spring, Hibernate, Struts, JSF. We have servers like JBoss, Jetty, Netty. There is a whole lot of word available to it. And definitely we have a separate session for question and answers as well. If you people please ask these question and answers, sort of it would be an interview session for all of us. Okay, so let me first of all introduce myself. I'm Navengit Yadav. I'm having 18 years of work ex. So I started my career in 2004. I'm an engineering grad who I've done engineering in IT stream and I started my career with Dell. uh, I was there. I just entered there as a fresher, and I still remember the interview process. It was you can say the campus recruitment happened. You were supposed to write. I think earlier those were the days when you have one quantitative aptitude test, which generally happens in CAT. Then used to have a quick questionnaire on C++, I remember. And then we used to have an interview, and acing your interview as a fresher is definitely that's the closest I remember of my happiness. Yep. So all of you must be having similar experiences or would be about to get that experience pretty soon. So yeah, I just joined IT in 2004, and I was there till 2015. For good 11 years, I just entered Dell as a fresher, and I just came out of Dell as an architect. So definitely, it was a very fulfilling experience for me. Every now and then, got to meet a lot of people, and this interview process was always happening on a day-to-day basis. Interview doesn't mean you are just one day you decide, okay, now I'm gonna prepare, and day after tomorrow you just are available for interview. It's not gonna happen, right? On a daily basis, you are studying something, you are giving presentations, you are coding something, you are giving explanation for whatever you have coded and all. On the hindsight, everything is an interview, right? So that has been happening, and you need to just keep on honing your skills on a day-to-day basis, and that's what we call experience, right? When we say somebody's 5 years of work ex, somebody's having 10 years of work ex, that means on a day-to-day basis what exactly you have worked. So that's the value of it, and it is all a culminating thing in an interview that happens. And post Dell in 2015, I just joined a French multinational. I was there for 2.5 years, working in the technical domain only. And now I'm part of EXL, working as a senior AVP with in insurance domain as part of a product. And my day in and day out is all about enhancing the product, technical, you can say technology, making it more performant, available, new features being added. I'm just handling a team of architects. We have a day in day out discussion and all. So yeah, in and out, working on technology and having discussions with the uh, different stakeholders of the product chain. It could be pre-sales people, it could be business owners, it could be QAs, it could be project managers, it could be prospective clients and all. And every day I'm either taking technical interviews or being part of interviews, you call it, whether these are discussions or not. So today's discussion is primarily my discussion, my experience sharing with you all. Hence, I would like most of you to come out with your jitters, your queries, uh, where exactly you feel you are lacking. If I'll be of any help to you, definitely feel free to ping me, reach out to Pratibha, and we can have one-to-one sessions as well. Okay, so let me start with the session today. Before the interview, what happens? As it is very clearly written, without a great resume, there is no interview, and without great experience, there is no great resume, right? So, therefore, the first step in landing an interview is getting a great experience. And most of you, those who are not into a job right now, or they are still, you can say, just starting off with their career in that phase where they have done their graduations and they are just applying, they might be wondering what experience is all about. I'm having a zero experience, and hence, what will I write on my CV? So, guys, experience, if I talk about the way I have just put it in the slide for students and from professionals, I have just put it differently. For students, I would say your experience is definitely not zero whenever you are entering any organization. It is all about whatever work you have done during your 4 years or 3 years of graduation time. Whatever projects that you have undertaken. For example, you can do freelancing projects. These days, we have myriads of websites available where such freelancing projects, you can say, you can take up. Get an internship. These days, most of the colleges, they offer internship programs. Even if through your college you're not able to get an internship, I have seen you can reach out to organizations directly. They do take resumes and provide internship, because even organizations want to invest in freshers, and if freshers have potential, then this really becomes a very easy medium for big organizations, Accenture, TCS, Infosys, Wipro, such huge organizations, to convert those internships into the permanent job offers as well. So for students, along with your, you can say, study, uh, do enroll into such freelancing projects, internships. Internship basically would give you that experience of a professional environment, how a team works and all, and definitely it would give you the exposure of technology, which is generally used in the production environment, right? And when we come to professionals, again, there are various, you can say, areas where a professional is. For example, if somebody mentioned that he is doing MBA, and why Java then? So maybe somebody is having an interest, and due to whatever, somebody is not able to land up with a job of his and her choice. That doesn't, you can say, is an impediment of not working in the technology of your choice. I have seen a lot many people. They are from arts background, but due to their absolute class analytical skills, their aptitude, they are successful in coding, right? And most of the freshers, when we go for interview, most of the weightage is giving on the aptitude test. It is not on the technology part at all, because technology is something which organizations, they will teach you according to their business needs, right? So for a fresher, uh, whatever background you have done, if it is a very different background, it doesn't matter. If you have done few courses, for example, the any big projects, any internship, any online assignments, I think that that suffices, right? And accordingly you will be evaluated. I haven't seen anyone getting rejected as fresher. For example, if some there are even civil students or electrical students, they used to sit for the same organization in IT, and most of the weightage was given on aptitude tests, communication skills, your analytical reasonings. So don't at all worry about, even if you have a different profession right from day one. Yes, when you are an experienced professional, then whatever is your experience in that particular area, that would be, you can say, considered, right? So this is different organizations have different way of evaluation, right? So this is, I would say, use your nights and weekend, whether you are a student or any professional. This is how we work before an interview, before any exam, and same applies to Java interview as well, right? So end of the day, all of these boil down to two big things that companies want to see: that you are smart and that you can code. So if you have an aspiration to be part of an organization where you are coding, you are, see, a lot of profiles are there. It could be a manual tester profile, it could be a BA profile. Coding is a very different, you can say, aspect. I would say this is an art, because it, you can't just, uh, it's it comes a bit naturally based on your analytical skills, and you can hone on top of it as well, you can learn it as well. But you should have that penchant for it, your inclination for it. Don't be whatever. If you feel like coding, then definitely this is an area where you should definitely explore, even you do not have relevant experience at the start of it. Okay. So once you have that experience built up, what should be the next thing? It is all about writing that great resume, right? And if I talk about my experience as an interviewer, from our HR panel or our talent acquisition team, which we generally call in multinationals, we do get n number of resumes to scan and to shortlist candidates, right? I'm just telling you my personal experience, and really we do not have time to skim through every line of that resume, believe me. So if your resume, the first point I mentioned is appropriate resume length. So if your resume is more than 2 pages, believe me, 2 pages, then I think somewhere you are not comfortable with your qualifications and your skill sets. Generally, it is expected that if you are having 10 to 15 years of work ex, try to have it in one page. Unless and until it is mandatory to move from one page, more have it not more than 2 page. No one has time and energy to scan your entire resume, believe me. Okay, a few you can say points that I do not would like to see people putting on resumes. Your career objective. There's no need to put any career objective. You are here for an interview. We know, right? So there's no point putting any career objective. If you have 10 to 15 organizations you have worked, or 10 to 15 projects you have worked, no need to mention all the projects that you have worked for an organization. No one is interested. That is for the background verification to happen behind the scene, which organization you have worked for and all, and it would happen. A technical evaluation, if you're talking about, is all about your current skill set, how much you're delivering. If you have done any interesting project which appeals to that particular job description, then do mention about it in bold and very clearly, and in you can legitimate fonts and all, right? So it your resume should not be very verbose to loud, right? Same with employment history, as I have told you. Projects, try to mention very relevant projects that you have done. What exactly has been your role? Don't try to just write blah 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 about the project. We are not, you can say, any interviewer is not very much interested to understand the project per se. A person is interested to understand your role in that project, how you have contributed in that project, your team bonding skills, everything comes to it, right? When you mention about programming languages and software, oh by in programming languages, I have seen people mentioning, even if they do not see, most of the Java people I have seen mentioning JavaScript by default. So please be very clear about what exactly you know, right? And don't mention number of years that you have worked in that particular language. For example, if you have worked in a language, for example, Java, I started working in Java 10 years back. And intermittently, I'm not working in Java that much, and I'm having few intermediate projects that I have done. Shall I be in a position to write that, okay, I'm working in Java for 10 years? I think I'm not be doing justice to it, right? So the better would be, right, whether you are proficient, you are average, you are good, that nomenclature should be used when you are using with programming language. That really gives a very transparent idea about your dabbling in a particular programming language, and same applies to software. I have seen people writing software that have worked on Windows 2000. I have the Millennium XP. I don't think so. If anyone asks you whether you have, what exactly is the difference working on Millennium or XP or whatever version of Windows you have worked on. So be very particular about softwares uh, which is adding value to this, you can say, job description. If you want to bring out any software which is very typical, you have, do mention about it. Don't mention very generic softwares. It's of no use, right? A simple and correct language. When I talk about simple and correct language, be very simple with your English while writing your resume. Have a proofreading of your resume. Not having correct English on your resume really doesn't give a very good impression. I'll tell you why. Because if a resume comes to me, although the candidate could be good, right, but the first impression is your resume. So if the grammar is not correct on your resume, it is not, there are spelling mistakes. Believe me, that somewhere gives an impression that you are not very particular about uh, your candidature. Your serious question comes into picture, that a candidate is not able to scan his or her resume once, and that really reflects a candidate in poor light, believe me. So have it simple, get it scanned, some spell checks, keep it very simple. You do not have to write Shashi Tharoor's English for that. Keep it very simple, right? So this is all about having a great resume. Okay. Uh, so in this slide, what we'll be talking about? We'll be talking about how you should approach an interview, right? In my opinion, if you ask, we should not be in a desperate situation in life that we are starting an interview. Then probably we'll not be doing justice to this discussion. See, that interview which happens overnight, you are giving 4 or 5 days. It could be because of any reason, right? That is all about skimming and scanning through multiple choice questions, which you'll definitely find over the internet. Thousands and thousands of questions. I'm not going into the details of it. I'm just talking about a very, you can say, process oriented way of approaching any interview and how it should be like. Suppose anyone starts so 1 year before. So ideal ways, you start 1 year before. If you are in a final year of graduation, start building projects and zero in on technology which you want to work in. It could be Java, it could be any other thing for that matter. So build projects and have your own repository as well. Like we have GitHub today, we have Bitbucket, GitHub. There are such online repositories are there. Keep on whatever code you are writing, keep on check it in that repository. This really becomes your portfolio in that 1 year. If you haven't started, I recommend all of you, the enthusiasts, to start having a GitHub repository account. It is a free way. You can just start using it, right? Learn appropriate programming languages 1 year before. You just zero in on what technology you really want. It could be Java, Python, SQL, whatever it is, right? Expand your network. Definitely. I think one of these studies shows that more than 80% of the jobs people land up with their network, and only 20% of the jobs are posted through various job portals and other sites. So it is very important to expand your network, get in touch with the right people, keep on exploring these options. This is very important in those in that 1 year period, right? Just don't wait for these job portals to publish it. Believe me, you might not end up with the job of your desired job. If you are trying to prepare for FANG, which we called the top fives, or any other organization. So start having networking, start understanding the culture of that organization as well in advance, rather than just doing a desperate attempt, waiting for job portal sites to just come up with. Build website portfolio about your work that I was just talking briefly a bit earlier. It is all about having that GitHub repository work. These days, I have seen few people putting their resume on YouTube as well. And believe me, I'll not forget few resumes which came on my way out of, I think, thousands of interview which I have taken, where people have created their online repository and their resume was YouTube based. Uh, this is a very interactive way of creating your resume. Because a 30 minutes or 1 minute of you speaking about yourself uh, talks volume about your exposure, your communication skills, your confidence, the way you are exuding yourself in that 30 seconds pitch or 1 minute pitch. So it really matters a lot, and it reminds me of one very interesting thing in, you can say, corporate culture. There is something called elevator pitch. Does any one of you know about this elevator pitch? Any participants? Anyone? Say even no, I'll be more than happy, because in interview you should be in a position to say no to questions as well, right? So okay, so elevator pitch is all about that 10 seconds or 15 seconds when you get into an elevator and somehow you see CEO of an organization, or for that matter Anand Mahindra is there, or any top shot, Mr. Tata, you found Mr. Tata in lift, and he asks you what's going on in your life, Navengit. And those are Just those 15 seconds where I need to either make a deal or break a deal. Right. So you need to be prepared. You have to be absolutely focused, whatever you are communicating to that party, and it should be make a deal for you. So this is the concept of elevator pitch. So have that 30 seconds or 1 minute of capsule ready. It would really make a lot of difference. So that would be my input to all of you. So this is how you can start 1 year before. 3 to 12 months before, the way I have put in, just continue to work on the projects. That will, in that manner, you can start honing your technical skills, create draft resume and send it for review. This is very important, which we talked earlier as well. Create your resume. Don't copy resume. I have seen people just copying it from their friends, colleagues, just changing the name at times. Even I have seen they're not even just changing their phone numbers, right? So this is just a very shoddy job that people do, because you is being reflected in your resume. Try to be as original, right, in your resume. Make target list of preferred companies. I think 99% people don't do it. They just want a job, right? No, this is not a job. Just think of a career, right? Don't get satisfied with a job, right? Invest in core concepts and data structures, because since end of the day, we are talking about Java interviews. This is the bread and butter of any programmer or coder. For mock interview groups, I think this is the thing. Most of us have butterflies in our stomach whenever we talk about interview, and even for this session as well. At 11 a.m., I was having butterflies in my stomach. Okay, is my internet connection proper? Is everything in place? Will I be able to answer questions or not? How I have prepared? So it is very important that you go through these mock interview groups with your peers. It could be some professional, you can say, organizations are as well, which really help you in conducting this mock interview groups. And believe me, unless and until you get into waters, you will not able to swim, right? So don't be shy and close your eyes that no one is watching you. Uh, Give as many interviews. It really helps, right? And when you are very close towards 1 to 3 months before, you should start getting up. Do many projects to solidify the understanding of key concepts. For example, if it is Java, and there is a concept of concurrency, right? I know this is one of very dreadful topics for any Java programmer, and they really try to do away with it. Okay, let me cram few questions from any of the available websites, and they will not write a single line of code to understand it, right? There are what is volatile, what is countdown latch, what is cyclic barriers. Believe me, these, and people cram things just from the website. They can tell what of it, but whenever it comes to why of things, they will definitely fail. And believe me, even if you get through those interviews, once you are in front of your laptop or a computer system, and if you are required to implement these concepts, you will fail miserably, right? So do all these mini projects, keep on writing small codes and checking it in your repository, so that you can showcase your work as well. As usual, do several mock interviews. Continue to practice interview questions. Definitely, it really helps to whatever is your learning, whatever are the market trends. You should definitely practice these interview questions along with whatever knowledge you have. Just don't rely on these questions. Just make it. You can say whether how much you know about the technology which you have already studied or studying, right? Continue list to track mistakes you have made solving problems. This is very important to have a feedback. Whenever we are in an interview or we are writing code, there is always a better way to write code, right? So enroll yourself for such websites where you write a code, try improving the code, sit with your peers, and definitely you will come out with flying colors in writing code, and you'll be very confident in your interview as well, because you can definitely come out with an example what you have studied in past, right? uh, Almost there with now the time of the application starts. You have your experience, you have your resume for the last 11 months you are preparing. Now the time has come when the rubber should meet the road and start applying. Be confident in interviews, right? When I talk about be confident in interviews, see, the interview is a hard thing to crack. When I say it is a hard thing to crack, whether the questions are easy or difficult, it doesn't matter a lot, right? It matters you are better than rest of the candidates as well. This is also one of the criteria. See, one thing is whether you know the answers to questions, and the other thing is how different or better your answers are as compared to others, those who are appearing for an interview, right? So when I talk about be confident in interviews, and there is a scenario or a question has been put up to you, for example, uh, tell me the internal working of a hash map. Okay, so suppose you do not know the answer to this question. I would say try to resist saying no upfront. Try giving some logical path. Okay, if it is a map, okay, it could be a key value pair. Okay, that means we are storing key in one place. There could be a linked value in some other place, and it could be some API we can use to leverage this hash map. So try to be as logical as possible with your answers. uh, when I say confident in interviews, don't look too you can say negative or too disoriented when a question is asked to you and you do not know the answer of it. Giving a roundabout answer and saying a no after that is definitely unacceptable, because none of us write code flawlessly. If you believe me, if you ask me to write, can you go and write a regex to evaluate some email address, for example, right? The first thing that I'll do is open Google. Then I'll write, okay, what is the pattern to validate an email address? I'll copy that regex and I'll just use it in my code. Okay, so it is all about your thought process and then matching it to your searching logic. It should not be the other way, that everything you are searching. So be confident with your knowledge and answer gracefully that this is how you can achieve or reach a particular answer to a given question. Okay. Work on the feedback which is given to an interviews. Most of the time, I'll tell you something very honestly. In my initial years, I just gave an interview and it was so pathetic. It happened. I really did not know most of the stuff in that interview. I did not prepare well, and I did not even bother to ask feedback because I knew I'm not going to get selected. And the organization was really good. They called me up. They say you are not selected, and they even gave me a feedback. And in that feedback, they told me very clearly, in a very, you can say, positive way, that these were the minuses, these were the positives as well, that you should work on. And that really gave me a very good impetus to prepare for my upcoming interviews. And I was able to crack the upcoming interviews. I worked on those gaps and I did not repeat those mistakes again. So every interview is a success or a learning. There is no interview which is a failure, believe me. So the concept of this mock interview is just to add on to your skill set, onto your learning, right? So don't feel shy of talking. Even if you're wrong, be wrong, doesn't matter at all. In my 18 year of working, this is what I have learned. Speak your mind out, discuss things, and even if you're making an honest mistake, do make a mistake technically, but it should not be you should not be repeating it again once you know why a particular thing has happened, right? And just repeat this process and you'll come out you can say successfully. Any questions so far? I would like to be more interactive with you guys. Any experience that you have which you would like to share with me?
एक्चुअली मैम, मैं
Yes.
जब एक इंटरव्यू देने जा रहा हूँ, तो
Hmm.
एक एक इंटरव्यूअर के पास जो एक एक जो जॉब ढूंढ रहा है, उसका जो उसका जो को प्लस पॉइंट क्या प्लस पॉइंट है जो मेरे एडॉप्ट करना चाहिए?
Okay, so Ajay, was it Ajay? I don't know.
नो सर, आई एम पॉलस सर.
ओके पलाश, सो आई थिंक आप पूछ रहे हो कि अगर किसी इंटरव्यू में, आई होप एवरीवन इज कंफर्टेबल विद हिंदी एज वेल, सिंस ही हैज आस्क्ड इन हिंदी, लेट मी ट्राई आंसरिंग हिम इन हिंदी. सो
यस सर.
पलाश, आई थिंक योर क्वेश्चन इज प्राइमरली कि अगर हम किसी इंटरव्यू के लिए अप्लाई कर रहे हैं, सो हाउ आई कैन मेक अ बेस्ट अटेम्प्ट टू क्रैक दैट इंटरव्यू, इज इट
यस
समथिंग
सर.
रिलेटेड टू दैट? ओके,
यस सर.
सो
यस सर.
ओके ठीक है, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन, एंड ऑल ऑफ अस, हम सबका एंड रिजल्ट ही वही है कि हम उस इंटरव्यू को क्रैक करें. सो पहली चीज ये है कि आपको जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शन आता है हमेशा, जो भी होता है ना कि क्या जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शन है, कितने एक्सपीरियंस के लिए है. सो उसको बहुत ध्यान से आप पढ़ो. अगर एक्सपीरियंस लेवल के हिसाब से ना कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी ऑफ एनी इंटरव्यू बदल जाती है. इफ अगर 0 से 2 years वाला है, so focus on uh, uh, you can say basics. Don't get into too much of complexities and advanced topics, right? That would not be expected, राइट. सो
यस सर.
जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शन का पढ़ना बहुत जरूरी है. अगर जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शन के हिसाब से हो सकता है आप कॉन्करेंसी छोड़ दें जावा में, राइट. आप फोकस करें डेटा स्ट्रक्चर्स एंड एल्गोरिथम्स पे. ठीक है, you can say basic features of Java, polymorphism, encapsulation, abstraction, modifiers क्या होते हैं, इन सब चीजों पे आप फोकस करें. कोडिंग एक ऐसी चीज है जो आप डे इन डे आउट प्रैक्टिस करते रहो. फॉर एग्जांपल क्रिकेट, ठीक है, सो एवरीवन इज डूइंग अ नेट प्रैक्टिस. वो उस दिन नहीं खेलते हैं जिस दिन मैच होता है, ठीक है. सेम अप्लाइज टू कोडिंग. आप एक दिन उठ के आके कोडिंग नहीं कर सकते हो, ठीक है. सो बी इन द प्रैक्टिस ऑफ कोडिंग, ये तो मैं सबको कहूंगा, ठीक है ना. सो बी इन द प्रैक्टिस ऑफ कोडिंग, दैट वुड गिव यू अ लॉट ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंस, अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स वुड बी वेरी क्लियर टू यू, ठीक है ना. एंड जस्ट बी फील फ्री टू. और एक चीज और मैं बताऊं, आपके क्वेश्चन से मुझे लगा, मोस्ट ऑफ द इंटरव्यूज यू आर जस्ट जज्ड ऑन व्हाट यू हैव रिटन इन योर रिज्यूमे, ठीक है. ऐसा नहीं है कि वो आपसे, यू आर अपियरिंग फॉर एन इंटरव्यू, क्योंकि इंटरव्यूअर को आपको पास करना है. आपको फेल करने के लिए भी बहुत इंटरव्यू होते हैं, मैंने देखा है, बट दैट सेल्डम हैपेंस, राइट. कि सो बी वेरी पॉजिटिव कि आपको लिया जाएगा, एंड यू नीड टू शोकेस योरसेल्फ, bring out the best in you, right. And just focus on the basics, which is Java है तो आपने Java के fundamentals पढ़े हैं based on your experience, and coding is a must.
यस सर.
ठीक है, हो सकता है
ओके
आपको
सर.
बहुत सारी चीजें नहीं आती हैं उनकी, डोंट शाई इन सेइंग नो टू इट, ठीक है. हम में से सबको कुछ नहीं आता है, वी ऑल गूगल इट वेरी फ्रैंकली, राइट. ओके,
ठीक ठीक
दैट वाज
ठीक.
ग्रेट क्वेश्चन, थैंक यू. ओके,
Sir,
वेलकम सर.
sir, may
एनी
I?
अदर? Yeah, absolutely, please, please.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Morning.
Sir, actually, means you have told to be better in your skills.
Mhm.
I was given the last year TCS and QT interview, sir.
Okay.
So in that the means the interview means the head who was taking my interview, that ma'am that I have mentioned that I am fluent in Python programming language and I have the basic
Mhm.
knowledge.
Okay.
So, but they have asked me the questions not regarding the Python. They have asked me regarding data science. So it is
Mhm.
a means good thing to uh, means ask a data science to a fresher while we are mentioning
Mhm.
the
Which job
Python.
description was it for? Was it for data science engineer?
No, sir, it was not
Mhm.
for that.
Mhm.
And I have one more problem.
Mhm.
That sir, every great person says that, like Abdul Kalam sir was also said that the result does not matter in our
Mhm.
career or life.
Mhm.
But then why the top companies or the main MNC companies and the IT sectors are having the means percentage criteria like 60% in the all the academics like 10, 12th and graduation. Actually, sir, we have to use our skill sets
Right.
according to our graduation, sir. And I was in hospital during my 12th board exams. That's why I got 52 marks. And I got rejected for so many interviews just for that percentage criteria.
I got your point. I got your point. So coming to your first question, that why were you asked a data science question? This is, I'll tell you something very frankly.
Yes, sir.
An interview depends a lot on who's taking your interview. There are no set agendas. There are no protocol mentioned, right? I might be having a bad day today, right? I'm super busy today, and I have been asked to take 5 interviews. It
Yes, sir.
could have been an offshoot of that thing, that I just asked data science question because you are into Python. You might have spoken, or that person might have got to understand or got an impression that, okay, you might have done something in data science as well, right? So what I mean to say is that there are no set norms or protocol how it should happen, right? If you'll ask me how will I approach an interview, this is how I will approach an interview. Whatever is written in somebody's resume, I'll not go an iota out of it. I would try to map my requirements, because first of all, the screening happens, right? I will
Yes,
be
sir.
screening that candidate who is fitting my criteria, correct? So once I have screened that candidate, then definitely why would I like to go outside of somebody's resume? Correct. So this is
Yes, sir.
my personal take. If it has happened to you, I'll not be able to comment on it why it happened, because it is an abstract thing. It is up to an interviewer. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Because
mhm.
sorry, sir.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
sir, when I was given the means online written test for the TCS and QT last year, I
Mhm.
was scored a lot of marks. Means I
Good.
have got a very means maximum marks.
Mhm.
That's why they have neglected my percentage criteria. That
Awesome.
was
Good.
on that time. There was also the means percentage criteria of 60%,
Mhm.
but I got 12th 52% in 12th.
Mhm.
After that, they have allowed me for the interview.
Okay. Great.
Yes, sir. But
So
after
that was a
that,
good thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's what I'm trying to say. It is,
yes, sir.
see, uh, so they relax. So that is a good part about the organization. They relax their criteria because you were able to score good marks, right? Might be whatever an interviewer wanted from you. Maybe the interview, or you can say the position open would have been for a data science engineer for them, right? They might
So
be
that
seeing,
was not.
okay, whether he's right. Could be. Absolutely. I'm not at all saying the position wasn't or was for. It could be, it's up to the interviewer at the end of the day,
Yes, sir.
how that person is approaching. I know it is, you can say, not a very fair word. If you have given your best shot and still you are not getting selected, don't feel too bad about it. At times, I have seen personally as well. I was able to answer most of the questions correctly, but still I wasn't selected, because might be the other person might have answered in a better way than me.
Yes, sir.
Right. So a lot of, you can say, abstraction goes behind the scene, which we cannot understand why I wasn't shortlisted and all. Right. So thank you
Okay,
for
sir.
that great question. Thank you. And
Okay.
if you still want to apply with EXL as a fresher, feel free to do that. We do not consider a lot of percentage criteria.
Yes, sir. I will do surely. And thanks for the opportunity and having this
Absolutely.
session.
Great. So let us move forward.
Sir, I have a
Okay.
question.
Absolutely. Please go ahead.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah. Please go ahead. Please
Yes,
go ahead.
Aditya, please
Sir,
go
I
ahead.
am sir. Actually, I am coming from mechanical background, but I
Uh-huh.
want to shift in IT sector in
Awesome.
software
So you're not
development.
justing. So not you're not doing justice to the 4 years of engineering, right?
Yes, I am doing, sir. I am
Ah,
actually after that I am doing a Java classes
okay.
training
Great.
program.
Great.
Now I am looking for the job, but
Awesome.
मैं resume apply करता हूँ, but I don't have anything to show in my portfolio like projects
Mm,
or work experience.
mm,
तो मैं resume में ऐसा क्या कर सकता हूँ जो
right.
highlight हो सके?
Absolutely. I think great question
The
there.
skills छोड़ के.
Absolutely. So देखो skills में if you are as we discussed earlier as well, keep on honing your skills. Java पढ़ रहे हो, Java 1.8, build few projects, ठीक है ना? Freelancing sites
Okay.
available हैं, lot of websites are there जो assignments देती हैं, and उसमें ranking मिलती है the way you are coding,
Okay.
ठीक है? आप eventually आपकी ranking होगी in lakhs, eventually आप 100 में आ जाओगे, ठीक है ना?
Okay.
आप उस रैंकिंग को अपने सीवी पे एज अ बैज ऑफ ऑनर लगा के भी प्रेजेंट कर सकते हो कि दिस इज व्हाट आई हैव बीन डूइंग एंड इट रियली मेक्स अ डिफरेंस, ठीक है? दूसरी चीज, दिस इज व्हाट आई एम टेलिंग ऑल ऑफ यू, हैव अ ऑनलाइन रिपोजिटरी ऑफ योर वर्क, ठीक है ना? सबके अगर सेम पन्ने के रिज्यूमे होंगे, सो हाउ विल योर सीवी स्टैंड आउट फ्रॉम दैट मल्टीट्यूड ऑफ रिज्यूमे? दिस इज हाउ यू कैन मेक अ डिफरेंस टू योर रिज्यूमे. आप अपना ऑनलाइन 30 सेकंड 1 लाइन का पिच डालो, have that online repository that would really stand you apart because you are showing your work. Believe me, I was part of one interview and that was for UI UX, ठीक है? I went for that interview some 6 months back, and three of us, a panel of three, we just went. That person showed us, shared the screen, whatever designs that person made, the way UX was navigating everything. He showed us his technology stack, blah blah blah, and we were mind blowing. That was our experience. आप समझे? So this reflects very differently.
Okay.
क्वेश्चन आंसर्स क्रैम करने से इंटरव्यू हो सकता है निकल जाए, लेकिन आप शायद जस्टिस नहीं कर पाओगे. सो वर्क ऑन द बेसिक्स, राइट? इन द मूवी 3 इडियट्स, वर्क ऑन एक्सीलेंस, सक्सेस झक मार के आएगी आपके पास. सो जस्ट बिलीव इन दिस फिलॉसफी, ठीक है ना? सो
Yeah.
हैव द बेसिक्स करेक्ट. फ्रीलांसिंग करो, देर आर प्रोजेक्ट पोर्टल्स, उसमें आप अपने असाइनमेंट्स करो, प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट्स आती हैं. अनदर गुड थिंग, हैकाथन का पार्ट बनो. ईएक्सएल कंडक्टेड वेरी रिसेंटली हैकाथन, हम ऑर्गेनाइज कराते हैं, राइट? सो व्हेन यू आर पार्ट ऑफ दैट हैकाथन, यू विल एबल टू रियलाइज व्हाट डिफरेंट प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट्स आर कमिंग. देयर इज अ गुड prize money, and the reason why EXL is conducting this hackathon is to get lot of great talent which is available in the market, right?
Okay.
So you can participate through hackathons, through such you can say assignments platform, through freelancing, and showcase in your resume. End of the day, it is all about your learning, and believe me, your resume will definitely get through if you will do all these things. Okay, so let us move forward. We discussed about our experience, we talked about our resume and rest of the things. uh, I'll just try to put things forward from an interviewer perspective as well, right? Because this is also very important, because the battle is being fought between two parties, right? It is not a one way thing. You need to understand the mindset and of the other party as well. So writing a noticeable resume, one part is done by you, and the moment you have that noticeable resume, the other party would definitely take cognizance of that. Okay, dissecting interview types. Okay, now we are reaching towards that state that your resume is shortlisted because you had that noticeable resume. Interview types, generally the first interview that happens is telephonic one, screening, and after that we have the technical, you can say, test. This is another mode that happens, and then you have face to face, right? I'm not talking about the HR part of interviews and all. I'm talking about these three primary mode of interviews. So in telephonic interview, my guidelines would be try to be in a very first of all, if you're having an interview, do turn up on that day, right? I have seen maximum people not turning, they are feeling shy, right? I'm telling you the honest answer. They feel they are not prepared, right? You do not know what lies in the destiny for you. So if you have not done that 1 year of preparation, then you will be the one who is not appearing for an interview, right? That's why that preparation starting of 1 year, because you need to stand out of the crowd. Okay, For example, we executed this hackathon, right? It happened some couple of weeks back, 2 weeks back. We had around 1800 participations happening. Okay. 500 turn up for some question answers round. Okay. Finally, 80 submissions happened. Okay. So serious candidate are that many only. Rest are just to see what exactly is happening. Right. So if you are a serious candidate, start preparing that 1 year and crack it. And it is definitely not a rocket science. It is one of the easiest things to crack, provided you are doing justice to yourself. Okay. So dissect this telephonic interview. Be very clear with your communication. Turn up in time, right? Because these questions of telephonic interview, in my observation, generally are being taken by HR, because technical person, they feed few technical question evaluation form to these HR people, and they just ask you few basic questions, because they judge your confidence, they judge your communication skills, your basic understanding of the language and all. So very clear with your communication, loud, confident, such things are generally happen, and telephonic interview is one of the easiest to crack, right? If you are doing these basics correctly, right? Now comes a very different sort of an interview, which is technical. Most of the freshers I have seen, they are not confident, and again the reason is you haven't studied, you have just crammed. Okay. So now the technical, this test is generally of two types. One is an organization outsource this technical evaluation to some third party, where you need to write some code in some predefined functions, right? Might be you are asked for, okay, can you let me know how to process a file? Okay, there is a file which you need to read from one location, copy it to some other location. This is a very basic, you can say, problem statement has been given to a fresher or anyone. So generally what happens is, the class would be written, the name of the class, the function name would also be written. You are required to write the code in that editor. And eventually, why this template is already defined? Because the interviewer will not be scanning every line of code that you have written. They would run few JUnit test cases, whether that function meets the criteria or not. Right? This is one way how you just write or approach. The other way is, you are given an IDE, integrated development environment, like Eclipse, okay, or IntelliJ, NetBeans, whatever. There you are asked to code something. And generally, I have seen access to Java docs is also being provided, because every one of us write code by searching something, whether it is Stack Overflow or something. So I have seen good organizations, they are not there to fail you. They just ensure you in a position to compile your code, right? And how well you have understood the programming concepts. These are like design. I'll just come to all these details later. Okay. And eventually, as a good programming practice, always write a JUnit test case. Whenever you are approaching such an IDE sort of a, you can say, a test where you are given an assignment, always write a JUnit test case. It really shows your professionalism, your completeness of your assignment, right? Because you understood a problem statement, then you started writing a JUnit. This is how generally we practice, which is called a test-driven development work, right? And sorry. And then we have a BDD culture. There's a lot of behavior driven designer there. So we are not discussing that. So once you have and another sort of a technical discussion that happens is a whiteboard test. An interviewer would be sitting with you in a room. He'll give you a marker, and he would give you a problem statement. And the problem statement could be as varied as, okay, you have design architecture of a lift. Okay, so he'll give you a pen, he'll ask you to design. Here in these type of discussions or interviews, somebody is trying to understand your logical power, right? There you are not required to write a good compiled code. Here you are required to write a pseudocode, right? And pseudocode doesn't mean plain English. It is all about, okay, I'll just create a queue or a DQ. I'll just write a producer, a consumer, then somebody's picking a task, and my lift is going. So whatever you can think of, you need to write it and give an explanation of that to the interviewer. And this is another mode of discussion which happens. So here you have to very good with your logic. Try to be as close as possible with the technical language like Java we are discussing about. And one thing I forgot, when you are doing that IDE test or that test where all the class names and everything is written, don't forget to write Java docs, right? You need to explain what you have written in your Java docs. So Java docs is a must. Write your JUnits as well. Your code should be a well compiled entity and your JUnit should be passing. Okay, so this is very important when we are talking about various interview types and how you should be approaching it. You should be well prepared for that. Okay. Another thing which comes to the interview process is writing algorithms. This is a you can say a more advanced topic, but I would like to cover it here. We have sorting and searching algorithms are there. Sorting means arranging a particular whatever data structure elements you have in a particular order. It could be a natural ordering as well. It could be any order which you give. And we have bubble sort, insertion sort, merge sort, quick sort, heap sort. There are a number of things. Those who are not very much familiar, there are very good books available on data structures and algorithms. You can refer that. In such type of discussions, what happens is there is a concept of big O, right? Here, the big O denotes the complexity and performance of any algorithm or any code which you are writing. So if you are trying to apply for product-based organizations or Amazon, like Facebook or whatever, Alphabet, Google, right? So whatever you have written, you are required to give an explanation of how much time would the worst case scenario would be for the execution, the best case scenario, and the average scenario. So this is the time complexity. And similarly, we have something called space complexity, like how much memory your process would be taking, right? Whether you will be shifting your data something to the secondary storage as well, along with the primary storage as well. There is always, you can say, trade-off between using the primary storage and the secondary storage. Primary storage is faster, but you can't put all the objects there. Secondary storage is more persistent, but it is slower. So your algorithm, and that is the big O part of it. A big O generally runs like O of n. O of n means if the number of elements are increasing in your data structures, in your processing, in whatever function you have written, your processing time would increase linearly. All right. There is something called O of 1. O of 1 means there is always a constant time. For example, array, right, or an array list. We have the concept of random access. What is this random access? You can straight away go to that index. You can take away that element, right? So even if you have one element or you have thousands of elements, get of one, right, would always be that time. So that you call O of 1. O of n means, for example, I'm traversing a linked list. Linked list is not random access. That is a sequential access. If I'm traversing a linked list from first element to my last element, okay, if number of elements grow, then definitely my searching would start taking time, right? So here you need to identify, when a problem statement is given to you, what sort of searching or sorting mechanism you need to apply, right? That's why we have so many sorting algorithms. Different sets, different scenarios have a different way of having it, right? Same applies to searching algorithms. In searching algorithms, it could be like a binary tree. We have AVL tree, we have red black trees. There are a number of trees. So do practice these searching algorithms and sorting algorithms, and believe me, they are not at all difficult. It is only that you will learn to swim when you will get into water. That's it. Okay. Now coming to data structures. Questions are asked. This is, I think, one of the most critical part, whether you are a fresher, you are having 10 years of work ex, or even after that. Data structures, it forms the heart of any interview. Because end of the day, you are storing some data, or persisting some data, or retrieving some data on UI, right? So concept of list, how they are different from trees, what are maps, what are sets, right? List is also a various. We have array list. In previous programming, we used to have vectors. Then we have, you can say, linked list, right? When to use set and when to use list, when to use map, all such things, sorting of a list, everything should happen. You should be knowing the nuances. Why every time I should be very easy and casual to use an array list? Okay, when the requirement is to show some sorted data, okay, or I need to insertion order, if I need to maintain, I should go for a linked list, right? So these data structures are very important, which you need to practice on a day-to-day basis. Design patterns. Okay, we have creational patterns. What is creational pattern? It is all about how you create an object, right? Anything which we have created in the system, it requires resources, it requires memory. And if you're not good in creation of resources, for example, there is a for loop, right? I think most of you must be understanding, those who are not from technical background, for loop, which you are running in some, it gets repeated. Now you are creating an object, a Java object within that for loop, right? Just think, is it a good practice of creating so many objects, and that for loop is taking a lot of time, because at the same time there will be so many objects getting created? Is it a good way? So you need to be very particular about creation of objects in Java, right? That's why we have something called singleton. An object should be created once, it should be leveraged more. In Spring architecture, we see by default, whenever we are creating classes in Spring architecture, it is all singleton, right? All my service classes, all my data access layer, they all are singleton, right? Structural pattern, like a very standard structure is given, and the behavior pattern. You can go over the internet and read about the design patterns. I'm not going to teach you about design patterns. What I want to focus out here is, do not cram it 2 days before your interview, right? You will not be able to success. Reason, I'll tell you. Any seasoned programmer will not ask you a question, how, okay, what is singleton pattern? This will not be asked. It would be asked, in what scenario you have implemented singleton pattern in your code, and why you have implemented it, right? So don't think of what. Whys are very important, and hows. Whys and hows. For that matter, if you're just going to the website and you're just cramming it, it won't do justice to you at all, right? Okay, if somebody asks you, have you implemented decorator pattern, right? You'll be very easy and say, okay, this is my decorator pattern, and this is the class I created, and then I added few properties to it, I changed the structure of it. So you will be asked, okay, can you give few examples in our Java API where you can see this pattern being implemented? Now you are clean bold, right? So there you should be able to showcase, okay, I have something called the object file stream. On top of it, I had a wrapper of object output stream, and then I wrote something to the mapper and all. So everywhere you will see design patterns being implemented, whether it is factory pattern or abstract factory pattern. template pattern, chain of responsibility pattern, whatever pattern, proxy, right? So try reading Java APIs. They are written purposefully and they are the best way to know how code is written. Always open Java doc source. Don't be in a hurry to go to Stack Overflow and find a solution. Try to read behind it why thing is written like that. Okay, for example, somebody asks you, okay, we have arrays.adds list, right? This is a way where we can give a list representation of an array. What design pattern does it show? Right, you are clean bold again because you did not read what exactly is written behind the scene of that, right? So it's very important to understand these nuances and always make it a habit of reading Java APIs. Okay, I'll just come to implementing popular interview algorithms as well. A few questions. So let me just. So I just wrote few algorithms: selection, bubble sort. All these algorithms I have written. We have insertion sort. Just wanted to show you what is O of n square. O of n square means your time would increase exponentially as you can say number of elements say increase, right? Okay, so let us do some programming now. Since you are appearing for some Java interviews, it is very imperative. So first question, take a deep breath and just have a free mind, right? I'm here to discuss problems, and as a team we will try finding solutions of it. So write an algorithm that prints all numbers between 1 and n, replacing multiples of 3 with the string fizz, multiples of 5 with buzz, and multiples of 15 with fizz buzz. Is the problem statement clear to most of you?
Yes,
Can I
sir.
have yes? Okay, great. Great. So once again, I repeat, I need to have an algorithm that I have a number coming. Okay? And the moment it is 3 or a multiple of 3, I'll replace that 3, numeric 3, with fizz. The moment that number is a multiple of 5, I'll replace it with buzz. And the moment it is a multiple of 15, I'll just replace with fizz buzz. So you have an array list, for example. Does anyone of you would like to attempt it or give me any pseudo logic to it? Suppose this is one of the questions asked in one of your interviews.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
We have to first create a variable or an object, and we have to use the for loop, or we can use a while loop till the end term. We initialize it from 1
Mhm.
till the n, and we increment. We use the incremental condition for that plus
Perfect.
1, or we can use plus plus. Then
Yeah,
after
yeah, yeah.
under the for loop, we have to traverse in three
Mhm.
conditions. First, multiplied by 3 is
Okay.
equal to true.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes.
Divide by 3. The modulus operator. Correct.
So under the
Okay. Will you? Oh, question is, will I be so easy to
condition
explain?
or and
So no, 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 no. See, जो मैंने कहा, ठीक है ना? Then you will say, no, no, I'll write an or condition. Okay.
yes, sir.
Now here you have started adding patch to your code. Now you have started adding patch to your code. This would reflect how clear you were with your problem statement. Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
99% banda wahi karega whatever you are talking about. Okay, let me give uh, okay, so this is almost a solution which you told me. Okay,
Yes,
that
sir.
I'll create a list of n and I'll just keep on iterating it for loop. Now for a very simple thing, see, This solution is first of all checking for 15 already as my first if condition. Getting the
Yes.
point? Now I do not need to write any or condition or and condition, my dear. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Is this solution more elegant and more appropriate?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Obviously, if
Right.
we'll take the 15, it will not iterate any of other
Correct,
loops.
correct. So मेरा 15 वाला बच जाएगा and I can, है ना? So this is what is tested in an interview. Your analytical skill. This question is not about your too much of a technical skill, right? Now I'll tell you a more elegant solution. Okay, this was an elementary solution. Another person came in and he attempted this question and he gave this solution. Okay, what is this solution talking? See, in my left hand side solution, what I'm doing, I'm hard coding too many things. I am writing hard coding fizzbuzz. I'm writing buzz. I'm writing fizz. I will not be able to generalize my solution. I am not in a position to test my solution. If tomorrow I am required, rather than fizzbuzz, I am required to write foo bar or any other thing. I need to change my core logic. Getting
Yes,
my
sir.
point? So in Java, we talk about decoupled logic. Left hand side logic is not very much decoupled, although it is performing correctly. Now, one person came in and what he did in my private static string method, I have taken this logic separately in a method, right? What I'm doing out here is I am looping all the numbers. I'm passing this number as a parameter, as fizz as parameter, as buzz as parameter, everything. So now, tomorrow, if this fizz changes to foo and buzz changes to bar, my core logic is not changing at all. This is my separate business logic, which I have written.
Yes,
The
sir.
only
It's for a
right,
particular condition.
right. So this is a more generic solution. Okay. So n number of people coming to our interview will bring in n number of ways of approaching, and an interviewer will be judging you on these things. This is what you need. Somebody needs to practice it. Once you write, see, first solution would always be this left hand side. Now you need to think in your mind how generic your solution could be. Okay, so do you want to do more questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
anyone? Okay, so I'm coming with a very easy question. Okay, guys. Okay, write a method to reverse a string. Any one of you would like to take a stab at it?
Sir,
And
I don't.
once again, I would take 10 seconds thought process.
Sir, I'm not friendly with the Java, but according to Python, I can say that
Absolutely. See,
yes.
you can always see. Absolutely, that's what pseudocode is all about. No issue at all.
Okay, sir. So we
Mhm.
have to means insert a string by the user or by the means programmer,
Mhm.
and we have to traverse it, and we will means initialize the index. Means while we are printing, we
Mhm.
start indexing from the last. Like in Python, we can give
Mhm.
index like colon colon -1. Then it will
Great.
automatically reverse it.
Okay. So whenever a question is being asked for which standard APIs are written, the interviewer is not interested, because in Java also we have string.reverse, right? Whenever a question is being asked to write any such thing, reverse a string, identify the fourth character, or remove anything as a blank space, you are supposed to present your own algorithm. right? So the logic of reverse needs to happen. Okay. So if I give you one solution to all of you, this is my, it's not very clear picture, but still I would, it's pretty understandable. I'll just pass a string, right, to a method. Okay. Then I will create an object of string builder. I'm not getting into the intricacies of string builder, string buffer, and string, right? What I'm doing is what I think the person just now told. I'll just create a for loop. I will navigate from length -1. I'll start from the end, and I'll keep on appending in this empty string builder about the character s of this string. Correct? Anyone? Any suggestion? Anything better can be done? Anyone? Okay, so there were 10 people in an interview and everyone gave this answer. Okay, did anyone say something?
Sir, we can take a I is equal to 0 and I is less than s dot length and I incrementing.
So how different would that be based on your big O? We talked about big O, na? If
Okay.
okay, so big O में क्या variation आ गया? Did you get any variation in your big O by implementing any other logic?
No.
No, na. Okay, so ठीक है. So now I'll show you a solution. Okay. Now see the solution. Okay, what we are doing out here, what we are doing, we are not using the for loop for the entire length. We are doing till the length by 2. And at one go, we are swapping the first character with the last character, second with the n-1, third with n-3, 4 with n-4. So at one iteration, we are swapping 2 elements at a time. Suppose it was written 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. There were 5 positions. 1 and 5 we replaced then and there. Second position and fourth position then and there. Are you getting my point? So here at one instance, I swapped 2 values. So this is half the time taking as compared to my left hand side algorithm, or not?
Yes, sir.
Making sense? Making sense? So here the interview, and suppose the person, there was only one position and somebody who gave me this logic is definitely having an advantage, right? Is everything is same for rest of the people. The right hand side logic person, whosoever is giving, it shows that somebody knows what big O is, how one should approach an algorithm, although the left hand side is not wrong. And this would only come through practice. Getting my point? Okay. So and it was, if you see, it is a very small tweak, right? Okay, let's go one more question. I think you people are having more interest in questions. Okay, let's take up one more question. Okay, now the question is, write a method that replicates a list of integer with 1 added to each element. Okay, so if I repeat, I'm trying to, I have an array list. Okay, and I just need to loop every element of that array list, and I need to add 1 to it. A very simple problem statement. Would appreciate your replies. Anyone? Everyone must be thinking that, okay, whatever I'll give the solution, I'll be giving a different solution. So this is what all about mock interviews and learning, right? Okay. So most of you would give me a solution, which is this, right? I'll have a array list. I'll just simply loop through it. And see, this is the array list I passed. I created an empty one. I looped through my initial and I just added number plus one, right? All of you very happy. You gave the interview. You were just expecting a 50 lakh salary package out of it. And eventually you did not get a call, right? There was another candidate who gave a different solution. Okay. What solution that person gave in? Okay. I'll try help you out. So let us go with the third one. What is the gap? Again, the same thing. You need to generalize your solution. In left hand side solution, if you see, we are too much coupled. If somebody wants a very different operation to happen on my list, I'll not be able to do any other operation. It is tightly coupled. This is plus one. I need to do multiplication. I need to do any other thing with my integer. I'll not be able to do so, right? What I have done here, I have created an interface called integer operation. Now, based on different sort of generic implementations, I will have this my specialized one, add one operation. It could be multiply 10 operations. So I can have lot of these classes which would be implementing them this interface. Okay. And eventually I'll be using this one, this particular interface method. I'll be passing this integer operation out here. This integer operation could be very different in different scenarios. This operation could be multiplication. So based on runtime polymorphism, right? So I will not have to change this class anymore. I'll be just adding this class. Okay. And I'll not be asked to change anything to it. Making sense? So what I'm trying to explain out here is what makes you from a basic coder to a definite coder where the concepts of Java are being implemented as per the requirements. Here I am, every time I'm trying to build up a generic solution, right? Here I'm trying to generalize a solution. Getting my point? So don't keep these concepts to a level of cramming things. That okay, this is polymorphism, there is a runtime polymorphism, there's a compile time polymorphism. But once it comes to implementation, if you're not able to do so, you're done. Okay. So understanding it? Enjoying? Okay. Okay. So now let us move to more focused thing related to Java interviews. Right. We just talked about your experience. We talked about your resume. We talked about how different interview process or mechanisms are there, how you should be approaching it, different type of questions which would come in. Now comes basically the fundamentals which you have studied. Okay, so let us quickly go into it. And okay, before we get into it, there's another question coming your way. Sorry guys, this is Java question, so anyone who is not familiar, just pardon me for that. So let me try explaining this. There is a public class called test, right? It has a very basic public static void main that we all write hello world. Okay, what I'm doing in this class, I'm just initializing an instance, capital A small a is equal to null, and this is my class A. Okay, and here I have a public static void show method. Okay, there is a class A, it has just one method called public static void show, and I'm writing system.out.println inside show. Okay, And now I just have this a dot and I run it a dot show. Can I have the answers in the chat? What exactly would be the answer out of these 5? Take 5 seconds break, no issues at all. Read the question carefully and then attempt it.
Rachel is saying runtime error.
I'll give 5 or 10 seconds and probably I'll just okay, runtime, okay. Anyone else? Ten seconds more. Anything, and I would like you to substantiate with a reason. Ajay saying error, Snehal saying error. Okay. Tejal is saying runtime error. Is everyone happy to say the answer is Amit Gaikwad is saying error. Sahil is also saying error. Okay. Do you think will an interviewer would give you a question which is that straightforward? Okay. So in the interest of time, the answer is not B. Now any other option? Sahil says no, it might be tricky. Yes, my dear. An interview is also not sitting you to just give you little candies, right? Okay, so the answer to it is it would run perfectly fine and the output would be inside show. Okay. Okay. So answer is C. And how? Okay. Most of you from Java background, why I have put up this question, I'll come to it later. Just to give you an explanation of it. This class is having a static method. Okay. And whenever we are having a static method, right? This method would bind to a class and not an instance of that particular class. That is the concept of static. Everything is at a class level, not an at object level. So what happens behind the scene when you are compiling this class? The compiler would see this method show and it says, okay, this method is static. So internally it would replace this small a with this capital A. Okay. This, and whenever you will run it, it would always show you inside show because this is my static. At compile time, this would be replaced. Okay. Why I put up this question deliberately out here? Because the next topic that we are going to study is Java basics. Most of you might have got the answer what I'm referring to. So the idea here is to give you an explanation of things that have your eyes wide open whenever you are attempting such things, because questions are laid for you as traps where you are able to, a very basic question it is, but most of you got the answer wrong because somewhere the basic, even the question was a bit tricky, you can call it, and you were not very confident with your basics, right? Hence, practice all these things with when I talk about basics. You should be knowing what exactly static means, how it works internally, how when a compiler is compiling a code, what is inline replacement is happening or whatever it is happening. Okay, so this question was primarily to get your mind going that, okay, I need to work on my basics. Okay. Let me, okay. Now coming to what all you should be knowing as core Java, anything which relates to object, when I talk about object, I mean class in general. The concept of final, static. Just now I showed you, although you might all be knowing what static is all about. But when the question was put up to you, you are not able to identify it because you just know that, okay, this is something called static keyword and it get attached to a class. But when a question came in, you are not able to identify, okay, this question is related to static. Okay. Similarly, what final is all about, why it is generally used. We have concept of different modifiers, concept of encapsulation, polymorphism, overridden, overloading. So whatever book you are reading, read the theory along with practicing it. That is what in every statement, this is what I'm echoing, right? Coming to arrays and strings, concept of immutability is very important, because if you string is a very different sort of a data structure, right? We call it immutable. So hence you should be in a position to identify how to make a class immutable. What is the concept of immutability? Here you will definitely understand the concept of final, overloading, overriding. Go and read the Java API for string class. Okay. Concept of generics and annotations, this is very important because these two things got introduced with Java 1.5, right? Generics is a very beautiful concept that got added as a compile time thing in generics. And you should be knowing this concept very well. If you don't know the concepts of generics well, believe me, you will not be able to implement. If you remember the problem statement I was talking earlier, in every problem statement, one underlying thought had been how to make your solution general, right? Or generic. Similarly, when we talk about these generics, whatever data structures we are taking, we should try to have as generic a data structure so that I do not have to every time change it. This is a very important concept of generics, which you should be absolutely practicing it. Similarly with annotations. What is the use of annotation? Most of you might be knowing Spring architecture. Most of the interview which I take and ask team members, if I ask somebody, okay, do you know REST? They say, yeah, I know REST, I know Spring Boot. How you approach Spring Boot? So the answer which I generally get is, there is an annotation which we write, that enable configuration, then I write @ Spring Boot application, and we are done. This is the answer I get to hear whenever we are talking about annotations. When I ask, if no annotation is implemented, can you explain what is happening behind the scene? Then everyone is clean board, because no one realizes the concept of annotation. What mechanism or what philosophy annotations work on? Is it writing something to your bytecode? How it is able to make changes as per, because you are defining annotation to your class, not to your object, right? So these are very important. Exception handling. Believe me, young people or young coders, they make a lot of mistake in exception handling. The basic philosophy of exception handling is never ever catch any exception. Now you would be asking, we have a try catch block. Absolutely true. But I'm saying don't catch exception, that don't mute an exception. If an exception is coming in an application, then that exception should bubble out somewhere, whether it's in your log, whether it is on your UI, right? So handling exception is a very critical subject which you should be knowing. There is a concept of checked and unchecked exception, right? When to use an unchecked exception and when to use a checked exception. You should be knowing all these things. I'm not here to teach you. Go to internet, you'll be able to read it, right? There is a concept of try with resource that got introduced in Java 1.7, I think. How it is different from a normal type try catch block. So exception handling is very important, right? Collections API, as we talked earlier, it is the heart of my Java programming, because end of the day, you will be writing everything to collections only. Looking forward to Java 8, one thing which has, you can say, a lot changed in coding in Java is Java 1.8 onwards. Concept of lambdas have come in, functional interfaces have come in, method reference have come in, streams API have come in. So Java has gone into a lot of revamp, and believe me, there are a lot of members, those who have not worked in Java 8, they have been working in previous version of Java 1.7, and they have done little bit of here and there coding in Java 8. And suppose they even get hired as well because they knew the logic part of things, and we hired those individuals a lot. They are still writing Java 1.7 compatible code in Java 8, and they are not leveraging the concept of streams, lambda, functional interfaces, how to use optional, which is making a lesser coder, which they should be having armory. Their armory should be enriched with newer weapons. That is not happening. Hence, you should be knowing about Java 8 minimalistic, because right now Java 18 has come. Every 6 months, Java is getting released. So major revamp has gone into Java 8 from coding perspective. So go through Streams API. What exactly is the philosophy of Lambda functional interfaces? This is very important to know. Okay. One thing very important is JUnit as well. The philosophy of JUnit is, as I talked earlier, whenever you are going into any of the interviews, you should be writing your JUnit. It shows your professionalism and the confidence that you have in your programming language, that whatever you have written is substantiated by a JUnit code, right? It shows you as a programmer and makes you stand out of the crowd, right? You should be knowing the concept of record, play, and verify. See, any framework, what is record? You record, okay, that when you are calling a particular method on an object, what should be the output? That is recording something. Play means you are actually running that instance of method, and verify means is the play is in accordance with the recorded statement. That's what you verify. So you should be knowing the philosophy of JUnit, and you should be knowing there are a lot of frameworks. We have Mockit is there, Mockito is there, JUnit 5 is coming up. We have TestNG is there. There are n number of frameworks. So do have command on any one of these frameworks. Okay, so let me move forward. Here we come to you can say more mature Java interview discussions, which happens from, you can say, performance of an application. Suppose somebody asks you a question, if your application is going slow, what could be the probable reasons for it, right? So here comes your knowledge about JVM. You should be in a position to read the thread dumps, right? There are various tools available, like in Java, you can read the thread dumps as well. In Eclipse tools also, you can read the thread dumps. A lot of profiling tools, they come where you can read the thread dumps, right? So you should be knowing, those who are having senior experience, what is a concept of a class loader. From your bytecode, dot class file, it gets converted to a bytecode. From your bytecode, how it gets loaded using a class loader, and how it get instantiated, all the static code blocks, everything. So JVM architecture is something which more from the monitoring and performance perspective, you should be knowing all these details for your questions. And please be prepared for these things if you're going for more of a product interviews. and more from optimization techniques and everything that you can talk about, right? Java memory model is generally a very, you can say, favorite questions of interviewer. Here you'll be asked how you can optimize a solution, what is class loader, how it works, runtime data area, what is a heap, right? What is a stack? Every thread runs in its own stack. Heap is a common area where objects do get created. Uh, what is compilation happens, garbage collection, a lot of things happen. So for a more serious interview, you should be knowing Java memory models, right? Now comes a more dreadful topic of Java, which is concurrency, multi-threading, where 90% people fail because they have crammed things. They have not implemented a single Java thread class throughout their career. And once a situation is being given, they completely flounder out here. So I would, this is entirely a different word. If I start talking on it, I think 2 hours would be less on it. However, would give you some tips and tricks. Tips and tricks would be that you should be familiar with the basic life cycle of a thread, right? A thread is in a ready state, runnable state, suspend state, stop, or whatever, right? The life cycle of a thread, if I talked about, you should be knowing the concept of synchronization, when to use synchronization. Java 1.5 onwards, we have java.concurrent package is there, where a lot of you can say good you can say services or APIs have been provided, like executor service, schedule executor service. And Java 1.8 onwards, we have something called completable futures. So there is a different word altogether to it. And end of the day in Java, it is all about threads only, right? So you should practice the questions on multi-threading a lot. You should be knowing the basics of, for example, what do you mean by a countdown latch, right? Right, they are not very you can say very complex things. It is only one has not practiced it. You should be knowing the difference between a countdown latch and cyclic barrier. These are general questions which are generally being asked. What do you mean by a thread local variable, right? So you should practice threads on a day-to-day basis. This is very important, and multi-threading will not come to you overnight. You just can't cram it. Believe me, next week you'll definitely forget it again. Okay, so this is about Java concurrency. Uh, Now we are just moving towards, you can say, Java along with its APIs. You can say different applications or different packages of frameworks which are available. Java integrates very well with database. So hence, when we talk about database, I'm not asking you to know SQLs very well. Here, Hibernate framework comes to your rescue. This point, you should. Hibernate is just a wrapper around database. It helps to mimic any database table in Java object. So if you're very good with Java and not very good with SQL, then you should think of, you should be knowing Hibernate well. How Java integrates with database using JDBC, right? Such things are there with Hibernate. We have the entire life cycle of an object, right? Something which is a very powerful framework these days, which we use is Spring Boot, or you can call it Spring Framework. You should be knowing the philosophy. What is dependency injection? What is inversion of control? Right? Spring Framework, I have seen people, as I told you earlier, if you ask somebody, do you know Spring? Everyone would come and say yes. Okay, what have you implemented? Say answer is I have implemented Spring Boot. Then the question is, okay, if you do not have a Spring Boot application and I need to make my endpoint a REST endpoint, then they are nowhere, because they know one way of doing it, that is add an annotation and do it. Hence, go after the API, read the Spring Framework Hibernate. Point number 2 is very important. Along with Java, you should be knowing the web application part of it, which is J2E concept, which is the enterprise edition. Here the concept of servlets come into picture. Here the concept of Tomcat server come into picture. How is my web application? You can say the folder structure of my WAR file is there. WAR file means web archive. It is a very standard structure that you follow. We have a web.xml file is there. You have a web.inf folder is there. Your static content would be placed into some other folder. So you should be knowing in and out of servlet architecture. What is a servlet config? What is a servlet context? Because every framework like Spring framework or any such things, they are based on this servlet. And these days I see programmers, they do not understand the concept of servlets anymore. They are using Spring framework, but they do not know what is HTTP request, what is HTTP response, what is the difference between a get call and a post call, how is a put different from a post or a get, right? So these are very important, and every such method which we use in our REST API development has a, you can say, very particular notion. So hence creating a web application is definitely, you should be knowing in and out of it. There is a difference between a web server and an application server. Okay, so along with this, these days the focus is more about, okay, now you have developed your application. Another thing which adds to it is your integration with your build tools. Knowledge with build tools is very important, which we call CI/CD, right? Like Maven is there, Gradle is there. In the previous time, we used to use Ant is there, Ivy is there. You should be very good with at least one of the tools, that once you have checked in your code, how that Maven build happens, that CI/CD is getting triggered. Like we have, you can say Bamboo, Jenkins. These are the standard tools which you use, right, as part of your CI/CD. Maven and Gradle is your code building tools are there. So you should be knowing these tools very well. A lot of questions these days are asked on these things as well, because you can't just check out and check in a code, right? You should be building your code as well. These are important. And also knowledge of Docker, containerization, Kubernetes is definitely an added advantage, because your Java application these days, we just do use this concept a lot, right? So having the knowledge of J2E is very important. You should know the servlets, JSPs, or any UI framework. These days, people are full stack. They know Angular, React as well, right? Spring framework you should be knowing. Concept of Hibernate, or you can say similar ORM frameworks, right? Object relational mapping, which we call. We have iBatis is also there. We have Toplink also there. Similar frameworks are there, and which you should be knowing. A lot of good libraries of Apache Commons are there, which you should be knowing, because you should not be developing all the APIs by yourself. There are a lot of open source projects which are available, which you should be leveraging day in, day out. So read all these libraries a lot. Also, I just have written serialization as well. The concept of serialization is also important. For example, you are building a cache. You can say a secondary cache is being implemented. You are using Redis, or you can use Memcache or distributed cache these days. What is serialization? Why we use it? Persisting an object. So such logic should also be known. So with that, I just wrap up my session in the interest of time and open it for a few questions, Pratibha.
Sure, Navengit. So, participants, do we have any questions?
Ma'am, I do, ma'am. Hello, everyone.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Yeah.
Ma'am, I want to know that which platform I will be gain knowledge about programming and creating all the programs.
Are you a Java person? Are you in some programming language already, or you just want to start your career in programming?
I started, sir. I completed my graduation in computer science and engineering. So
which programming language is of interest to you? Are you working in any? Do you have working experience? Any experience in any programming language?
I do have in React.js, sir.
Okay. So what's your question?
Sir, my question is where I can explore projects in real-time world, sir, by any through platform or
Yeah.
to develop.
You have websites. You have you can say a lot of freelancing websites are there where projects bids happen. You can pick up a project. Else you take up courses online available as well. So if you go to websites, a lot of projects are available. Go to free GitHub repositories are there. If you search for React.js GitHub repository, you will find those repositories where projects are posted. You need to just download those projects or fork those projects in your repository, and you can understand those projects, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, sir. That's it. Thank you, sir. Thank you for.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, I wanted to ask two things. First is means I have seen during the so many job portals or drives that Java is mostly means asked for the freshers,
Mhm.
and Python has less priority than Java. So
No,
I
not at all.
wanted to know means
Yeah.
okay,
Please go
sir.
ahead.
Actually,
Mhm.
yes, sir. Because actually, I was asked to my seniors and some
Mhm.
experienced persons. They have also told me to do the Java, don't means
Mhm.
do the Python for the fresher.
Mhm.
So means I wanted to know what are the plus things in Java as
Mhm.
compared to Python for the freshers.
Excellent question. So see, Python and Java, they are why we have these two languages, since they address two different things, right? That's why we have two languages in place. Both these languages are 25 years old languages, right? They both have their own end goals, right? My personal take is if you want to make your career in data science analytics, uh, I recommend or suggest Python because it has more APIs exposed which are able to turn things around of that volume data, right?
Okay, sir.
Java is an enterprise language. It is a more, you can say, uh, enterprise, like for any application you are developing end to end. With Java, you can integrate everything. These days, it is a language which is in existence with a thorough, you can say, website. You can build website very easily along with this. And if you are into an e-commerce application, you can look for Java based solutions. And you can able to understand, see, Python is very that you call very succinct. You just write one line of code and behind the scene everything happens.
Yes, sir.
if you
Right.
need if you need to understand some more algorithms, what exactly happens behind the scene, I think Java is something which will give you that feel you are coding something more, right? So if you have
Yes, sir.
my take would be learn Java first. It would be easier for you to switch from Java to Python towards the later stage of your career. However, the vice versa, I personally think is not that easy, because if you learn Python, then you are used to of using lot of abstraction in your code already, because lot of work is done behind the scene already. Then switching from Python to Java would not that be easy, right?
Yes, sir.
Hence I would recommend go for Java, and then you can move easily to Python. It's a great language.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And one more last question, sir.
Mhm.
Sir, as you have asked so many problems and I have answered, so means what are the things that I have to get more prepared for the future career?
I
Means
think the
if
very
you have
yeah,
some,
absolutely. I think the very first slide, it is all about practicing and practicing. The more you are in water, the better swimmer you become, right? And get it reviewed by someone. Okay. So when we were talking in that workshop session, you gave me some solution, I gave you a better solution. Now you understand, okay, there is a better way.
Yes, sir.
Now you would start thinking from more generic solution point of view, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is, I would say, practice, practice, and practice. So what happens in cricket? I'm a big cricket enthusiast. So what happens in cricket? A bowler comes and he starts bowling very fast, and the very first over, all the balls start going wide out of the leg stump. Then the captain comes to that particular person and says, "Boy, maintain the line first." इसको कहते हैं ना, line length पकड़ो पहले.
Yes, sir.
Maintain the line length first, then increase the pace. So practicing is all about maintaining that line length. Okay, keep yourself warmed up and then start optimizing it, right? So it is all
Yes,
about
sir. I will
practice.
really do.
Okay, great.
Thanks for this, sir.
Absolutely, Sahil. Great having you on board with us today.